Welcome to the Slaughter on Sports Podcast Network, the NHL show. It is good to be back. I am Marc Sauter. He is Zach Martin. And once again, this is the NHL show on the S.O.S. Podcast Network. Again, today, my guest. I mean, it's easier to list off the things that you don't do, but the host of the Locked On Hurricanes podcast for the Locked On Podcast Network, you cover the Carolina Hurricanes for the Hockey Writers, and amongst many other things. Zach, how you doing today? And thank you for joining me.
Yeah, no, appreciate the invite, Mark. Always excited to talk about hockey, and just like you said, the list goes on forever. I know you're the same way. So yeah, it's like minds. We're always busy talking about sports, and hey, today's hockey, and can't be upset about that.
Absolutely. Can't wait. That reminds me, today is hockey, and Wednesday, the NFL show is back with my good buddy Joe, and we're going to be breaking down the playoff matchups are set, and we'll be talking NFL on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Wednesday evening. So before we get into all of this, there's lots to get to. Of course, the topic is the roster reveals for the Olympics. Lots of discord up here between Team Canada and Sam Bennett, and I know, like, we just can't have anything nice. Like, oh, we haven't had professional players at the Olympics for over 10 years. Yet we have to complain about something. For Team USA, it's been the same way. We're going to talk Hurricanes, talk Metro Division. Before we get into all that, gold medal for the World Juniors is tonight, Sweden and Czechia. And the bronze is on in a matter of minutes between Canada and Finland. I wanted to ask you, I was in the US. This would have been, between 15 to 20 years ago during the World Juniors. And nobody seemed to care down there at all. And in Canada, and I, being from Canada, it's a tradition, it's a Christmas tradition. And I'm looking all over the TV networks to try to find some World Junior coverage. And it wasn't even on the ticker for ESPN. It just seemed to be just not a thing. Now, obviously, up until this year, you guys have won back-to-back gold medals. Now it seems, USA hockey, I think in general, is in the best place it's ever been. There's a constant conversation. Have they caught up to Canada? Blah, blah, blah. I think the whole world is catching up to Canada and to the US for that matter, which I think as a fan, obviously, you can kind of kick dirt about that one, but as a hockey fan, it just makes the product so much better. Watching the World Juniors and legitimately not knowing who's going to win that night. I mean, there were years and years where you just knew it was the USA, it was Russia, it was Canada, and that was kind of it. And now, clearly, based on the medal round, that's not the case anymore. What is the World Juniors coverage like down there? And I don't even mean coverage as far as on TV, but what is the hype behind this tournament now? Obviously, winning over the last 10 to 15 years has really helped. But what is kind of the aftermath of them losing on Saturday in the way that they did? I know in Canada, even though these kids are teenagers, we treat them like they just, ruined their whole lives. Yeah. What is kind of the hype behind the World Juniors now down there? And what's kind of the aftermath after a tough loss like they had on the weekend?
Yeah, I think with the hype, I think it's grown for sure over the last few years. I still think with the fact that it's kind of tough when you're looking at it on NHL Network. Not everyone has it, so I think it's just kind of like that weird. It's that weird part of like you're still getting it, but it's like it's hard to watch it unless you have to pay for the extra packages on cable and all this other stuff. Where it's not like you can be like, okay, I have this whatever prescription, I can go and just use it like that. It's kind of in that weird spot of where it is because I know if you have like MLB TV, you can have that. But then if you want to get MLB Network, you can pay like a little extra on top of what you're already paying for MLB, so you can still get the actual channel for the sport. I don't think the NHL Network does that, so you're kind of having to navigate through that. So I think that still kind of is a hindrance on full coverage just to watch it on TV if you don't have cable or whatever it is to get NHL Network. Other than that, you of course all the people who are diehard hockey fans are going to be watching the World Juniors, at least trying to keep up as the best they can with it, despite the fact that watching it is kind of tough here and there. And I think you do get there is the hype that's there. I wish we were able to watch a little bit more and get an understanding of it, and or at least get more eyeballs on the sport. Aftermath wise, yeah, it stinks because you look at the team who was back-to-back champs, losing it in a way where you're kind of like, okay, that's not the greatest how you went out in that fashion. And you don't even you're not even a chance to medal, which is crazy to think of, but it's one of those things where it's just you're in a tough spot right now with where it is. And like you said, the parity is so much better, which if you ask me, I'd rather have the parity of when you're looking at, Czechia and, you got Sweden, Finland, Canada, you got Latvia over the last couple World Juniors have been really showing out too. And all that. So I think, the parity has been great, but for the States, it's a tough pill to swallow for the fact that they're not going to be able to chance to medal at all. But, I still think the hype is still growing. I wish overall that we would at least get a little bit better TV coverage out here than just NHL. That's kind of like your only outlet to watch. And the thing too is, and I know a lot of people are complaining about attendances. It's like you are talking about in the middle of the day during the week, and a lot of people are at work. It's not, one of those things where it's so easy to get like a whole barn full of people, especially when you're doing it at the Wilds Arena. Like that's asking a lot to be able to pull something off like that. Where if you could have gone like other, like University of Minnesota or Minnesota Duluth, like some actual arenas where you could fit a lot more people in on short notice or during the day. But overall, I think it's the hype is getting better over the few years. I just kind of wish the TV aspect down here was a lot better than just throwing on the league's network, and then you're kind of like, all right, go get it, and find a way to watch it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny, man, talking about not like meddling, like Canada plays Finland today for the bronze, and for the third straight year, Czechia, kicks Canada out of their pursuit for gold. And 2 straight years, Team Canada didn't medal. And it was like, are we failing as a country? Like the legitimate conversation is like, what's the state of hockey? Like it just, and that's just kind of the way that it goes. And, but yeah, 100%. Right. Well, thank you, for indulging me with that one. So moving on to Team USA, they revealed their roster over the course of I guess it was on Friday they revealed it.
Yep.
And it's funny, man, like you're talking about Team Canada, Team USA, even Team Sweden now, like that roster's stacked. Like it doesn't matter who you pick, who you don't pick, you're going to have stacked rosters. That's just the way it goes. I think, Team USA, their goaltending and their defense is I don't know by far and away. I mean, their goaltending certainly, in my opinion, is far and away the best in the tournament. I would say that their defense is also very loaded with the players that they could choose from across the NHL. Offensively, I can't. Yeah. I can't, like I said, to top off the show, I said this and I'll say it again. I wish we could just be like, look at all these great players. But when you leave off a player like Jason Robertson, and with what he has done this year, it's just going to cause conversation. And in Canada, and I said this last week, in Canada, the big conversation right now is Sam Bennett not being on the roster. And Anthony Cirelli is on the roster, very good player. The fact that he plays for John Cooper and the fact that Sam Bennett was left off the roster, there's been some obvious kind of, putting the pieces together of why Sam Bennett wasn't on this roster. With Team USA, I think that same conversation can be had between Mike Sullivan and Vincent Trocheck. I think there's a couple other players, JT Miller, who we know is a gamer, not a great season. What is your perspective on this Jason Robertson thing? I think for me, as someone who covers the Stars and who watches this guy, nightly, I'm in that kind of bubble of just why, and
Mhm.
I understand the talking about his skating. I understand the talking about his defense. I understand what people are saying. However, he's he scores goals, which is the hardest thing to do in this league. So talk to me about that, man. How do you feel? Does So I guess number one, how do you feel about Jason Robertson not being on the team? But number two, does this alter how you would feel or how you feel about the roster overall? Is it just disappointment that he's not there, or are you legitimately like this might hinder your chances to go far in the tournament?
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't know if we're gonna talk about Canada, but I do have some thoughts
Yeah.
on Team
Hey man,
Canada's
whatever.
roster too. But yeah, but no, for USA at least, yeah, I think the fact that you have Jason Robertson off is still kind of crazy to me. For some of the fact that you talk about defense, you could talk about skating and stuff like that, but for me, you have guys who can do that, and I think when you leave guys off like Jason Robertson who can score, I think that's kind of the bigger issue is the fact, okay, but you're going against teams that are going to be able to play defense and do all this. But if you want guys who can score goals, Jason Robertson's that guy. Like you said, Anthony Cirelli's okay. You look at, you look at like JT Miller, guys like that. I just don't see where it makes sense to have guys like that on the roster. I know other people were talking about Brock Nelson, but Brock Nelson's played very well for the Colorado
Yep.
Avalanche. But there are some guys, like you could definitely tell that there's, for me, it's that weird aspect of why are there certain guys on the roster compared to others when you're like, well, this guy he's a 200, like he play on the backside, and the guy can skate and this, that, and the other. I'm like, okay, but you're kind of leaving a lot on the table too. Like there's a lot of guys for the US that got left off the roster, and even Canada that I know we'll talk about. It's just leaving Robertson off is a huge problem. Now some people are talking about Adam Fox, and I'm like, Adam Fox is good, but I think with the defense, I don't really see the whole problem with where the defense is at because of what they have on that group. I think for me, the defense was a lot harder to crack than the forward core. I think the forward core, there is some guys that I would rather have on the offensive side, and not just because of the fact, oh well, it's the Rangers. It's like, well, no, it's Robertson should be there. There's other guys who were left off like Cole. How's Cole Caulfield be left off? That's another one. I'm like, makes no sense to me. It's overall, it's just weird. It's weird how you look at the American roster and you're kind of feeling to yourself, well, what are we necessarily doing here with guys that didn't make it on? So when I say it's a hindrance, I'm curious to see how it comes out because, yeah, you might look at the Canada roster and the goaltending might be, we'll see how it works out there. Defense, that's another question mark. About the forwards, Canada is loaded on the forward side of things. Sweden looks really good. Finland looks really good. You can't overlook, Czechia. They've won the Worlds not that long ago either, and those guys are absolutely loaded too. And there's, Latvia, Austria, like there's Germany. Like we're going to see Germany back, and there's a lot of German guys in the league that are really, really good. You're talking like Moritz Seider, you're talking about Raymond, you're talking about Leon Draisaitl. It's like this is not going to be an easy tournament for anyone. Like this isn't going to be like, all right, who's going to be the two guys in the gold medal game, and it's going to be automatic. It's like no, there's too many good teams that are going to be coming. Now there'd be some where you're kind of like, okay, there's some teams that are still a bit behind, but this is going to be like what we saw in the 80s or 90s where it's like the same couple teams. Like this is going to be a gauntlet of a Olympic, games for men's hockey, at least that we're talking about. I think USA is going to do well, but there's going to be those question marks of like, are you really bringing your best guys? Or are you just trying to fit, are you trying to bring your guys, or are you trying to think of, oh, this fit will work great for us? And it's like, is it really though?
Yeah, like to me, I think it's a classic conversation of overthinking in a sense. Like I think, you try to think a lot about like, okay, how many guys do we have for the penalty kill? What do we have for 5-on-5? What do we have for power? And when you're talking about the Olympics, everybody can do mostly all of it, especially like power play and like 5-on-5 stuff like that. I think what you said about the defense is 100%. The only guy that I would think about is that I would kind of question on the defense side would be Hannafin. I think Hannafin's a very good player. I think that's the
Yeah,
one
he's the
guy that I
one.
can see. Yeah, like if you didn't take Hannafin and you took Fox, would anyone really blink an eye? I don't think so.
I
Right.
would say Lane Hudson over those two guys. In my opinion, I'd take Lane
Interesting.
Hudson. I'd take Lane Hudson over those two guys. But Fox is good too. But I
Yeah.
think Lane has got that little bit of extra. He's good defensively, but he brings that offensive side of things as well.
I think
But
the
yeah,
one
Hannafin is the one on the defense. I'm kind of like, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I think for me, this is just my opinion. This is not indicative of anything that I've heard or nothing like that. To me, Lane Hudson, to me, I would not, shrug my shoulders at it. I think the fact that you have Werenski and Hughes is like you have two players who kind of do what Hudson does and at a higher level. And so if you're looking at like bringing more defensively sound, but I'm right there with you. Yeah, dude, I just think to go back to the like overthinking part of it, I just think, it's the classic thing when you have number one overall, right? Whether it's the NHL, I know I didn't say this, but you write baseball as well. Any league, it's do you take the best player available or do you take what your team needs, right? Is it the best player, or if you need someone on the O-line, do you take O-line or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And to me, Jason Robertson, only one other American has scored more goals since the beginning of 2025. And he's not even on the team either, Morgan Geekie. I think he's American, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that.
I will check that for you.
I think he is.
But yeah, go ahead.
Or maybe that's just overall players in general.
Canadian.
He is Canadian. Okay, of course he is. Classic. I should know that. But and then he has the most. So then he has the most goals scored of an American-born player. Then my point remains the same. Yeah. There's lots of coverage out there. I have written about it a couple times. There's been lots of coverage about him being very open about how not being on the Four Nations really hurt him last year. And he had a surgery on his foot in the off season before last season. Very slow start to the season. And since January of last year, he's been unstoppable. And that really carried into this year. And he talked about the Olympics being a huge motivation for him coming into this season. He's also due a massive contract, which he didn't say, but let's be clear that
let's be honest.
That's a big part of it too. But yeah, man, I was just I wasn't, just with knowing how hockey guys are, I wasn't shocked that they stuck with kind of who they know, but I was shocked just based on what we've seen from Robertson this year.
Yeah, Robertson was definitely the big one that I was kind of like really surprised on when you look at, the omissions. Like I said, you also got Cole Caulfield, you got Matt Nyes.
Yeah.
Defensively, you can talk about Adam Fox and Lane Hudson. I know some people kind of throw out Jackson Lacombe, and I like Lacombe's game, but I don't think that he would be a guy over Fox or Hudson if you threw them in.
Not yet.
Like you said, Robertson. Yeah, Robertson's really good. He should be there. Matthew Nyes has come up really strong. I'd still put Robertson over him. If you were going with Robertson, maybe a Caulfield more over. I think it was either Robertson or Caulfield would be the two guys I'd take over. Maybe the guys look like a Trocheck or a Miller and stuff like that. But yeah, very weird how you look at just the overall aspect of how the team was made. And I'm really curious to see, with like Brady's back, but they're still waiting on Matthew Kachuk. How's he gonna be ready to go and stuff like that. It definitely makes you look at the American forward core, be like, okay, where are we gonna go here with that? And like you said, we talk about the defense. You got Faber, you got Hughes, you know, Seth Jones, McAvoy, all of them, Sanderson. I'm still kind of questioning Seth Jones a little bit because I still remember how he was with the Chicago
Right.
Blackhawks, and people want to act like he was the guy that helped Florida get there. I'm like, he played well, but he wasn't the guy in Florida to do the thing. But that's a whole different conversation for another time. But yeah, defensively, I think it's just Hannafin. I kind of question, like you said, it's the guys from New York where you're kind of like, are you really like, yeah, you bring some snarl to the lineup, but are you going to be the guys that are going to necessarily help push that envelope for the forward core? So it'll be interesting to see how the states do when it comes to the Olympic time. Like I said, but Canada, there was a lot more emissions. I'm kind of like,
Yeah, talk to
okay.
me about this, man, because like the obvious one, and like really quickly for me, just to put the bow on for Team USA is, I think that
Mhm.
the Jason Robertson omission has put a sour note on what otherwise is a very good roster. I really like that Tage Thompson
Yeah,
joined the team. I think that's awesome. Clayton Keller, I think
yeah,
that can be one where would I take Keller over Robinson? That's a conversation. I would maybe take Robertson over someone else. I am really happy for Keller that he is there. Obviously, Team USA has a lot of talent and they're going to be one of the best teams in the tournament. And, like you said, they have a shot for gold. And a lot of teams, this isn't just Canada and the US anymore. So, like, Team USA is a very good roster. And I think the Jason Robertson conversations put kind of a damper on what is a good roster. It's just hard when you see how JT Miller has played this season. It's just
yeah,
hard to kind of, his past and his pedigree, he does deserve to be there. If you're looking at how other players are playing right now compared to him, um, then
hmm
that's where the conversation comes in. And to segue this back to Canada, talk to me about it, man, because a lot of people like Bedard, Bennett, two among others, um, is like for me, Bennett's the big one. I'll share my thoughts after, but you said that you had some thoughts for Team Canada, so give them to me.
it's crazy to me because when you look at this group and forward core, I mean, it's tough. I mean, because you got Celebrini, you got Crosby, you got McKinnon, Marchand, Marner, McDavid, all those guys. For me, it's kind of, I go back to, you got Sorel, you got Brandon Hagel. Those two guys are good. I'm just not sure if those are the two guys. Then you have Braden Point there too. It's like, okay, I see you've got three Tampa guys, but you leave out a guy like Sam Bennett. You leave a guy out like Connor Bedard has been playing really well. Some people can make the argument for Morgan Geeky because he's right on the tails of Nathan McKinnon in terms of goals. Wyatt Johnson's still available. I'll say this, and I might homer up a little bit. Seth Jarvis has 19 goals, and he just gets absolutely written off
Yeah.
like it's no big deal. But they're like, oh, it's you're an extra in case someone gets hurt, and it's like, I don't understand that because you're talking about a guy who's top three in shorthanded goals, overtime winners, goals. It's just crazy to me how Seth Jarvis is also left off when you saw what he did in Four Nations. I know people want to be like, well, he wasn't very effective. It's like, well, John Cooper never really utilized him well enough to show what he can do because he can do. The guy had like five. He already had like, he had five shorthanded goals last year. He already had like 4 game winners in the first 5 games this year. So leaving Jarvis out's crazy. I mean, like I said, you got Bennett out, Bedard out. Those are 3 guys right there. I would throw Morgan Geeky in for 4. Would maybe say Wyatt Johnson too. So there's a lot of guys that you're like, okay, I don't know about Sorelli. I don't know about Hagel. Bo Horvat, he's been okay, but even I'd say Bo Horvat's maybe kind of a question mark. Then you got Braden Point, okay. It's just those are kind of like the forward core. That's kind of the big question mark. Means like you have a lot of forwards you can bring in. Defensively, yeah, you got Drew Doughty, Thomas Harley, McCarr, Morrissey, Parayko, Sanheim, Theodore Tays. But then you look at the defensive side of things, you got, okay, Is there an argument for Bouchard? Maybe. Chikrin? Maybe. Brandon Montour? Montour's been playing really well. I know a lot of people want to throw Matthew Shea for him. I'm like, he's a really young guy, so maybe defense is kind of a harder one to breach for the Canadian team. Goaltending is the goaltending. You got Bennington, Kemper, and Thompson. I'm really curious to see how that plays out for you guys, even though Four Nations,
Yeah.
the Canada goaltending played really well, but it's just, I'd say Y. Johnson's played well, but I'll say this. You got Bedard, Bennett, Geeky, and Jarvis. I'd have those four guys in over some of the other options that are kind of in the roster. And for me, this goes back to what we were talking about with, how the U.S. team is built. There's a lot of my guys are there.
Yes.
Over what you could really be. And and like I said, nothing against these guys that got named. It's a huge honor to be part of your nation's team. But when you look at guys that were left off for the U.S. and Team Canada, there's a lot of I don't know about that type of selections.
Yeah.
For these groups.
Well, and it's funny because talk about the goaltending. First of all, what's hilarious is that Jordan Binnington and so to kind of pair this with the Sam Bennett conversation as well, for me, and again, this is my opinion, it means nothing. I look at, because we don't have any Olympic to look this is the first time that most of these guys, I think Brad Marchand was there in 2014, if I remember correctly. Maybe not. I think so. But regardless, for
Sid and those guys.
Sid as well. Sid as well. But
it's a very small
for the majority of everybody in this tournament, this is their first time playing in the Olympics. Drew Doughty was in back then as well. Too. My point is, we don't have Olympic competition to look back to and say, well, last time in the Olympics, this player did this and this player did this. So for me, I look at the playoffs, right? And to me, I think, okay, big games, big moments. Yes, obviously regular season matters. How they're playing right now, it matters. But for me, it's when the stage is the biggest and the lights are the brightest, how do you perform? And last spring, there was nobody who performed better than Sam Bennett. I think he had 50 points last season, in and around there. In the playoffs he had more than half of that in just the playoffs. He was the Conn Smythe winner. He's won 2 cups. To me, I just look at a player like that and someone who can transform his game to what the moment needs. And there is nobody in my mind that I can think of like that other than Sam Bennett. Because all these players, when you look at Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, the list goes on to these great, great elite players, they are who they are all the time. In the regular season, the Panthers don't need Sam Bennett to be that guy all the time. When the playoffs come, that's when they need him to be at that moment. So for me, it's I don't know, why wouldn't I want, he's won the last 2 Stanley Cups. He was the Conn Smythe winner. It's kind of the same thing with Jason Robertson, obviously different context, but that same kind of idea of why wouldn't I want the most recent Conn Smythe winner and he just won the last 2 Stanley Cup? Why wouldn't I want him on my team? And I understand, like you said, guys bringing their guys, and I would keep Point on the team. I think, Point this season, he's been okay. That's certainly not his best start to the season, but I just think pedigree alone, I'll keep Point. Cirelli and Hagel, if you didn't have these other guys sitting there, I would take them. I just think to not bring Sam Bennett, and the funny thing is all this conversation about Sam Bennett, that's kind of over, specifically about Sam Bennett not having the best start to the season, not being that productive. That's over now because in December, he turned it on and he has what, 19, 20 goals now this season. Like he's, doing what he does now. So that's for me. When it comes to the defenseman specifically, I would have liked to have seen Matthew Schaefer there at least to be the seventh or eighth guy. I
Yeah.
I think, in Toronto, we saw on Saturday night, this guy just has the ability to take over a game, to take over a moment. I would have liked to have seen him at least there, at least on the roster, whether he plays or not, whatever. I just think that he deserved the nod. I understand, Travis Sanheim, he's a good player, but if Sanheim is there and Schaefer's not, is that the difference between you winning gold or not? I don't think so. And I think Schaefer, you know what I mean? So I would have liked to have seen Schaefer there. I'm with you. Like the Jarvis thing, Jarvis is probably one of my most favorite players to watch. He just seems like a jitterbug out there. It's his energy. You know what I mean? Like his energy just seems to feed the situation. I would have liked to have seen him there. But
about Jarvis too. It's crazy because you think about it. He had 19 goals. He had 20. They took it off the board. And then he gets hurt against Florida. If he doesn't get, and people want to complain about it, he got tomahawk chopped in the skates. If you've seen the highlights, it's clear he got tomahawk chopped by Evan Rodriguez in the skates, and he goes rips first into the post. If he's not knocked out, Mark, we're talking about a guy who could have had between 20 to 25 goals. Like he had 20 goals by the start of the month, or he had 19 goals at the start of the month, and they had, I don't know how many more games after that, but he could have had at least 22, 23 goals by the time we're talking about the end of December rolling into January. And it's just, unfortunately, he's out. He's still out. But like, and Canada's acting like, well, the injury doesn't matter. It's like, okay, well, if he had 20 plus goals, would you have selected this guy? But he's a 200-foot two-way player who can power play, penalty kill, defensive, neutral zone, and offensive. He wins faceoffs. Like he's a winger who can win faceoffs, and he is an absolute bulldog. He's not the tallest guy out there, but he throws his body around like it's no one's business. And he's an electric player, and it's just crazy to me how it's like, well, it's not the injury, but we're not going to pick him. Why?
I know.
Like you said, it's high. Like I said, Connor Bedard. Like, how does Bedard not go? That's not one for me. It doesn't make sense. If you're not going to take Sam Bennett or Jarvis, why not Bedard? Like he's playing out of his mind right now for the Hawks. And Morgan Geeky's been one of the hottest goal scorers this whole season. Like he's keeping pace with Nathan McKinnon for the most part. And how do you not have that guy going?
I know.
Like you can have four forwards that are on the omissions list that I would pick over some other guys on that forward core. And I think Canada would have more firepower on that. And their offense is already good, but you could have, took it to the nth degree with those guys. But
yeah,
like you said, it's crazy. The selections for these teams, I'm like, it's great everyone's making it, but there's definitely some, I don't know about those ones.
The only thing with Morgan Geeky is that he's a center, and that team is just loaded down the middle. That's like the one thing where I can just think like, okay, yes, he deserves it based on ABC, but you look at the center of the ice there, like it's just absolutely loaded. Yeah. That's the one thing for me. I think Bedard, I would personally take Bennett or Jarvis over Bedard right now, and that's no slight to Bedard. So if those guys, didn't make it, I would put Bedard third on that list, only because I really like the way he's been playing. Obviously, he's been lights out. It's Celebrini, and I mean Doug wow, my mind's blanking. St. Louis Blues GM, general manager for Canada, Doug Armstrong.
Doug Armstrong.
He said specifically that back in December, Celebrini was one of the 12 guys that they knew was going from the forward group. That a long time ago that they decided Celebrini is going to move into
Right.
this team. And I just think Celebrini has the ability to kind of take over a moment that Bedard is still growing into. And so
Yeah.
I don't mind that. All right. Lots of time talking about that. I know I only have you for about 20 more minutes, and I do want to talk about the Carolina Hurricanes. Before I do that, do something that I forgot to do, and that is remind everybody that this show is brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Right now, sorry, my computer is acting up. Here we go. All right, I'll start over. This show is brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Right now, promo code SPORTS10. You can get whatever sports card you want on the First Round Collectibles store, 10% off. Again, promo code SPORTS10, 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. They have an ongoing sale up to 50% off selected cards. And with our promo code SPORTS10, not only do you get 10% off of regular priced items, but sales items as well. Do the math. 20 becomes 30, 30, 40, 40, 50, 50, up to 60% off selected cards using promo code SPORTS10. So go to firstroundcollectibles.com today, promo code SPORTS10 for up to 60% off your order. And Total Apex Sports, Total Apex Media, appreciate them having us on board as well. Live on Solid on Sports Twitter, Solid on Sports your YouTube, and Total Apex Sports on Twitter as well. All right, let's get into it. The Carolina Hurricanes. Should have done this earlier. Here we go. The Carolina Hurricanes currently first in the Metro Division, 25, 14, and 3, 53 points, 3 points clear of the Islanders, 4 points clear of the Flyers and the Penguins, and only 5 points clear of the Washington Capitals. Carolina Hurricanes, one of those teams that are judged only, at least in my eyes, solely on playoffs. It's a formality. This point, the regular season is what it is. Win the division, don't win the division, get past the conference finals. That's really what the goal is. Obviously, the goal for every team is to win the Stanley Cup, but for the Hurricanes specifically, we all know they can get almost there. But can they get over the hump? Again, the team I cover, the Dallas Stars, it's the same thing. 3 straight conference finals, can't get over the hump. For the Carolina Hurricanes, the Toronto Maple Leafs, although this season's a different conversation right now, but for the Maple Leafs, regular season, formality, what about the playoffs? We can go through it. The Kansas City Chiefs, obviously this season happened, but long time. Kansas City Chiefs, the regular season, it's a formality. It's about the playoffs. All these teams in sports, the Dodgers, the Yankees, regular season, it's whatever. What are we doing with the playoffs? Something I said you don't agree with, but that's okay.
So it's you mentioned the Yankees. That's a different
conversation. Yeah. Fair enough. My point is, the Carolina Hurricanes, we all know what they're going to do in the regular season. And the finish line is what they're kind of judged on. I want to talk about this season as a whole. I think this season, honestly, dude, like I would love to know your thought on this. Like the NHL as a whole this year, like this has to be one of the more interesting regular seasons that we've had in a long time. Like I know that since Bedard's been out, the Blackhawks, they've kind of went downhill a little bit. They've been winning games recently again. But the Blackhawks are not, guaranteed 2-point night. The Sharks aren't guaranteed 2-point night. The Metro, I think, is the most competitive it's been in years, specifically the Metro. There's just a lot of this is Gary Bettman's wet dream, man. Just like everybody is just, winning and losing, and it's all just rising and falling together. But I want to talk, kind of go backwards. Hurricanes lose in the conference finals last year, and for the second time in 3 years. And the big ad was Nikolai Ehlers from the Jets. That was kind of the big ad in the offseason. So before this season started, did you feel like that was enough for this team to kind of get over the hump? And where are you at now?
I'd say the acquisition of Ehlers, getting him off of free agency, trading for Keandre Miller, I think it's another good one too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then of course you got you got Mike Riley's as your seventh defenseman. You're kind of looking at the goaltending situation. Of course, Cam Prima gets picked up. You picked up Brandon Bussey, which has been an absolute lifeline for the Hurricanes in the goal, especially with Kochekov now out for the rest of the season with the hip surgery. But I felt really good with where the Hurricanes were at. I still kind of wish they addressed the 2C situation a little bit more. But I mean, Logan Stankoven's kind of hold his own. I think he's doing pretty well. I still feel like that the Hurricanes are still needing to address their 2C situation, which I'm hoping they do by the deadline, because I like Stanks. He's really good. I think he's a better winger. And I think you could go trade for a right-handed shot 2C that's more legitimate, because right now you're looking at Aho, where he's at over 30 points. Stankoven's not quite over 20 yet, and you're kind of really wanting that. Because for me, a 2C is a guy you want to have 45, 50, 55 points, not, where we've seen other guys we were finishing with like 32, 30, stuff like that. Like, it's not really getting you to that next level. So I think the Hurricanes were a team that I think we're going to have another deep playoff run. And I still think they are going to have a deep playoff run, but I still feel like that there are some holes that still need to get fixed. 2C is definitely one. Goaltending, I am very questioning on right now because of, outside of Brandon Bussey, it's a big question mark. I like Frederick Anderson, but man, that guy he can't buy a win. Like, he hasn't won since November 9th. Like, he is, and it's not all his fault. I'm not going to put it on him. There's been a lot of really shaky hockey the last few weeks, like the last couple of weeks, and some change. So I wouldn't really put all on Freddie, but I still think the Hurricanes do need to address some issues. Like I said, second line center, goaltending for sure. And the thing, it's been a weird year. Like, Jacob Slavin's missed over 30 plus games. Shane Gostisbehere has been out like 3 times. We had there was one point we had, in terms of depth, we had our 12th defenseman on the depth chart as a healthy extra for the Hurricanes. With, Joel Nystrom's played really well. You've had Charles Alexis Legault play really well before he cut his hand after falling down on Nick Robertson's skate while trying to fight Bobby McMahon. So it's the amalgamation of just a lot of.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
Yeah, it was definitely
a weird fight.
Yeah. But just all the injuries, now you got guys that are still out, and you're trying to get everyone. The team hasn't really been fully healthy. I think they were healthy maybe like 2 games total. And then Slavin's back out again. Jarvis is out because of getting hurt against Florida. So it's been a weird year where they're still playing really well. Like you said, they're first in the Metro. They're top. I think they're like 6th in the NHL in terms of points. It's just, I think the condensed schedule for the Olympics, just all these games like back-to-backs and 3 and 4, and it's no excuses because everyone's doing it.
Oh,
because I don't know if you've probably seen it too, Mark. Injuries across the board in the entire league. Like, I see people like talking about like how their fantasy teams are just an absolute mess because no one's staying healthy, and that's the problem.
Yeah, I've given up.
And it's just it's been a weird season because then with the Olympics, they need all this time, so they had to condense the front half. I'm like, you guys think the front half is bad? Look at the back half when we come back from the Olympics. It's even more of a gauntlet to roll through that with all the extra back-to-backs and 3 and 4s and stuff like that. So the Hurricanes are playing well. Like I said, I know it's a long answer. But
no, you're good.
At the start of the year, I think they're going to make a deep playoff run. I still feel like they are going to make a deep playoff run, but that is contingent on getting everyone back healthy. And I think that there's 1 or 2 things that they need to address at the deadline to take it to the next level, because this is a good group, but I don't think with how it is right now, especially over the last few games, I don't feel like that this is a team that is bona fide for a deep playoff run, meaning you're going to the Eastern Conference Final and making the Cup Final for the first time since 2006. I think they could make the conference final. It's just they're going to have to get hot at the right time with the right guys, but I still think there is some work to be done overall.
And it's so funny what you say about like Bussy because like, you know, Freddie Anderson is one of my as a Leaf, like he was great. Obviously had his moments where he was not great, but the biggest issue for Freddie, and it's kind of been his whole career, is okay, right now he can't buy a win, fair. Throughout his career, the guy just can't stay healthy. You just can't rely on him.
Yeah.
And sometimes he'll be hurt and you'll know that he's hurt. And other times he'll just disappear and like, oh yeah, he's hurt. Well, like what happened? Oh yeah, no, don't worry about that. So it doesn't matter. He's just gone. And that's really hard to rely on. And obviously, like you said, Kachekov now, who has had a okay season, I think is fair to say. He
I thought it was pretty well.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty good. I mean,
yeah, and well, now he's gone. So now it's like, man, like the one guy you can count on is who is this guy? like we know him now, but go back to the beginning of the season. It's like you might have known who he was, but like the majority of hockey fans is like, who is this guy that the season rides on now? And he has been phenomenal. He's an excellent story.
Yep.
It's when you're looking to go on a deep playoff run, the kind of day and age is like, unless you have a, like Ottinger or better example, Bobrovsky, you kind of need two goalies at some point. There might be a time in the second round where you need your backup to come in for a couple games and kind of take the edge off your starter for a little bit. So that's one thing. I think overall, the Hurricanes are just a team to me that I just trust. Like I just trust that they're going to be there. They're going to, figure it out. I think the one thing for me and why I was a bit down on the Nikolai signing is not because of the player. Obviously a very good player. I just, again, you're there, like literally there at the rinks. You see this way closer than I do. For me, being on the outside watching from my couch, it just feels like they have a lot of that player. Like that's just a lot of what they already have. And it's, what's that extra little bit of zing that they need to get past a team like the Panthers, where, for the first couple months of the season, we thought, oh, maybe the Panthers are gettable this year. And now they're slowly rounding back into what we all have known them to be. So that's kind of segue it a little bit, and not even with regards to the Panthers, specifically with the Metro, because I think, for me, I had this conversation with our guy, Justin from the Hockey Writers, who covers the Philadelphia Flyers. He was on the show during the preseason, and he was very down on the team in the sense of like making the playoffs or making some sort of push. He was very high on their future, but as far as this season goes, and I was looking at their roster and I was like, this team isn't that bad. Like these guys, like this team has some good players. Last season, I thought the same way about the Calgary Flames. Like everyone was penciling the Flames in as this like bottom feeder, like they're in like the quest to get Matthew Schaefer, and I was like they have too many good players to be in that kind of realm. So with regards to the Metro specifically, who is the biggest threat to the Canes? Because I think at the beginning of the year, I think the vast majority of people would say the Capitals. And obviously, I think the Capitals are still a good team. And I think, them, like everybody else, you mentioned it, man. There's so much hockey being played. Nobody's practicing on a regular basis. And it's just like, yeah, what you just did there in the second period, didn't like that. Oh, practice? No. Well, let's just try it again tomorrow during the game and we'll figure it out. So I think the Capitals are the logical choice for the biggest threat. But dude, the Islanders, not only are the Islanders good, they're actually like fun to watch. which like twists my brain. Like I just am conditioned to think of the Islanders as the
Yeah.
most boring team in the NHL, and they're like fun to watch now. The Penguins just won't go away. The Flyers won't go away. Who to you is the biggest threat in the Metro to the Hurricanes?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because, like you said, with the Islanders, like we're all used to them being the boring team because that's Lula Morella's team. He doesn't really sign anyone.
Yeah.
Yada yada yada. And somehow they've decided to be like, okay, we're going to be a team that's got an even goal differential, but somehow we are like 3 points off at the top of the Metro. Flyers are playing a lot better hockey than what some people thought, but when you got Zegers playing the way he is, and that's even with Mitchikov still trying to find his game a little bit too. Pittsburgh, everyone thought Pittsburgh was dead in the water because they're the only team that was viewed as a team that was selling in the offseason, and they're on a 5-game heater. They're they're tied with Philadelphia. No reason why they're behind is because they played one extra game. I thought the Devils are going to be more of a threat to the Hurricanes, but yeah, I mean, the Hurricanes just beat them. They're only 3 points back of Philadelphia, but you're talking about a team that's a -10 in goal differential. They're kind of up and down too, so you're kind of feeling, okay, what's New Jersey going to do? And I mean, Columbus, who's in 8th, they're an over 500 team. They're 18, 16, and 7. And it's crazy to me that they're only 6 back of just third place in the Metro. They're not even that far back of a wild card spot, which is crazy. So the whole Metro is over 500. It's a tough division to win it because everyone's playing so well. But if I had to pick a team that I think is the most legitimate to the Hurricanes, you could say Washington because their goals differential is +14. I'd still probably say the Islanders because just the fact of how they've been playing, they've made things interesting with the Hurricanes in the playoffs, and even it's just something about these guys. The Islanders are playing a little bit different. I think because you got Matthew Schaefer, you got Bo Horvat playing really well, you got Matt Barzal, playing well. I think these guys are really like buying into protecting Schaefer because you've seen like he's gotten whacked a good couple times recently, and the Islanders are like, that's not going to happen. And I think they've really kind of really surrounded this kid and really wanted to play well. So I think the Islanders are a team that, it's like, oh, they're going to backdoor their way in. I don't think the Islanders are going to backdoor their way in like they usually do. They are a really good team. Got to give it credit to the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're somehow the fountain of youth with Crosby and Malkin and all these guys as well. I mean, of course, I can say that because they beat the Hurricanes 5-1 to wrap up December. So I'd say Islanders. I give some credit to the Penguins. I'm still kind of weary on the Flyers a little bit because I'm wanting to see how long that one's going to a little bit last. Washington, are they going to find the Lightning again like they did last season? But I'd say probably the Islanders and the Penguins are kind of like the teams right now that I'm kind of looking at going, these guys could be legit, making some runs here. So those are the two I'm looking at.
Yeah, that's interesting because like the Flyers, I feel like if they miss the playoffs, okay, like the fan base is Philly, so the fan base is going to be what the fan base is. But on a big picture, the Flyers are still on their way up, and they got a new coach, Rick Tocchet, first year. If they miss the playoffs, you're still on the rise. I think Pittsburgh is a team where it's like if you miss the playoffs, like, are you going to rebuild now? Like what like truly like when are we going to do this? But yeah, man, it's just interesting. Like obviously take away, I compare to make it, a football analogy. I compared the Hurricanes to the Chiefs coming into this year, just from the standpoint of, and obviously the Chiefs, this is before the season started, so don't read into that. Don't read into that what the Chiefs have been this season. But I kind of looked at it as, even when the Hurricanes lost the division to the Capitals, I still knew the Hurricanes would be the last man standing when it comes to this division, right? It's like the Capitals had a great run. I'd love to see them do well. But it just felt like the Hurricanes just needed to get to the playoffs and then kind of take off from there. heading into the season with the Chiefs, it was like the Chargers are going to be better. The Broncos are going to be better. They might not win the division, but when we get to the playoffs, then, well, obviously with the Chiefs, that analogy breaks down now, but you see what I'm saying. Lots more that I wanted to get to with you, Zach, but I really, we're just about at an hour. I want to respect your time, and I know that my wife wants me to respect her time. So I will leave it there. Thank you again so much for joining me. Let everybody know where they can find your work. The many, many, many places over the interweb where people can find your work.
Yeah, obviously you can find all my written content at thehockeywriters.com along with Marc. A lot of great stuff over there. I've enjoyed reading your stuff about the Leafs more recently and the Stars. So big shout out to you for those ones,
Thank
man.
you, man.
But yeah, check all my written content over there with the Carolina Hurricanes. Curious to see what's going to come with all of our coverage about the Olympics. I know we got a lot of cool stuff behind the scenes going on with that over at the Hockey Writers. If you want to keep up with my work on social media, it's One True Zach on X. The podcast that I do, Locked On Hurricanes, is LO_Hurricanes. We're on all podcast platforms and on YouTube, Monday through Friday, every single week, and then 3 times a week during the off season. The grind that never stops. I do have another podcast. It's the Search Cast at the Hockey Podcast Network. Also, Believe Sports. It's a weekly show I do with a couple of my co-hosts. We've been doing it this is our 5th season now, covering that since February of 22. I'm also at Heavy on Sports. I am their Red Sox baseball writer, so I'm doing a lot of stuff over there as well. So not just hockey, a little bit of baseball as well. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff. I have a link tree in my bio if you want to go find all the websites that I do for the articles and the podcasts on podcast networks and YouTube and stuff like that. It's a lot. That's why Linktree works.
Yeah, I love it, man. No, dude, you're one of the best, and I appreciate you having me on. And knowing now that you cover the Sox, we'll have to have you on the MLB show throughout the rest of the short off season, man. Pitchers and catchers are tying their shoelaces, man. We're almost there. Yes, yeah, I would love to have you on. As a Jays fan, I care about baseball now randomly after this unprobable run. So
yeah, hey, you know what? We can mutually have a common enemy, and we'll leave it at that. We'll let people figure that out.
Absolutely. Zach, once again, man, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you so much. For everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Thank you to everybody for hanging out with us today. Appreciate it. Promo code sports10, first-roundcollectibles.com, up to 60% off your order. Total Apex Sports and Total Apex Media. We are back Wednesday to kick off the NFL playoffs. We will see you next time.